full of hidden mysteries that humans have barely scratched the surface of. One of these mysteries is the icy land of Antarctica. But what happens when all the ice melts? What kind of secrets do the sub-zero regions of Antarctica hold? The region's icy and harsh conditions have kept humanity from diving too deep. But everything that we have discovered so far has been a combination of fascinating and absolutely terrifying. From incredible creatures to never-seen-before natural phenomena, Antarctica is a land full of possibilities, and all you need to do is look beneath all the frozen water. Join us today as we take you through 15 terrifying things discovered in Antarctica that changed everything. Stay tuned to the end to see some pretty exciting stuff. Number 15. Underground lakes. Anyone who has the slightest bit of knowledge about geography knows that lakes and the ocean are two completely different kinds of water bodies. But the Antarctic Ocean doesn't play by the rules. In 1970, scientists had a hunch that an entirely different ecosystem existed in the Antarctic waters, something that hadn't ever been seen before. Antarctic waters hold entire lakes inside them, an estimated 400 of them. These lakes sit under 3 kilometers of ice, and scientists believe they were formed during the separation of Antarctica from the ancient supercontinent Gondwanaland. And the reason why the lakes remain flowing instead of freezing in the sub-zero Antarctic oceans is because of the underwater pressure. Lake Vostok was the first of its kind discovered in the 1990s. It is also the largest subglacial lake ever found in the region, lying 2.5 kilometers below the ice. When scientists extracted a sample of the lake water, its temperature was around -3 degrees while being covered by ice for over 20 million years. However, the most significant breakthrough came in 2014 at Lake Whillans, when scientists discovered lakes and entire ecosystems consisting of microorganisms and other signs of life that exist within these lakes. And what's terrifying is that these species haven't been exposed to sunlight for millions of years. Yet they still exist and grow using methane and ammonium as their energy sources. This also means there are high possibilities of entire systems of lakes, estuaries, rivers, and even volcanoes existing under the Antarctic waters. However, studying them is challenging, considering how hard it is for scientists to look beneath all the frozen water. But never say never, right? Number 14. Rainforests and fossils. Speaking of signs of life, the Antarctic region is also home to rainforests. Considering the place's climate, it's pretty hard to imagine any signs of tropical trees and creatures living here, let alone flourishing and thriving, but it's possible. The truth is that before Antarctica became a frozen desert following the Ice Age, it was actually a warm, tropical region with rainforests upon rainforests. Some also believe that Antarctica had entire civilizations living in this warm region. Still, all of that ended when ice covered the land. This is a popular theory because scientists have discovered several samples of fossilized wood, tropical trees, and leaf impressions that prove the existence of rainforests in the region. Not just that, but scientists have also found tons of fossils from marine animals, birds, and even dinosaurs from the Cretaceous period, and that could have only been possible if the land had once been warm. Plus, if there are any other signs to prove it, the region is also scattered with fossils of a beetle species that lived around 20 million years ago. After research, it's been discovered that the insects could have only existed in a warm climate. All these fossils and discoveries have humans wondering whether Antarctica might hide actual rainforests within its depths. If it is, we wonder what kind of new creatures and maybe even civilizations live there. Number 13. Singing ice. It's not surprising to discover ice in Antarctica, but singing ice? What does that even mean? When researchers set out to study the ice shift in Antarctica, they were surprised to come across a singing glacier. That's right, the entire Ross Ice Shelf is always making music. Known to be the most enormous shelf in Antarctica, about the total size of France, the Ross Ice Shelf makes an eerie sound, one that's almost like a melody because of the winds blowing across the snow dunes. The winds crash against the dune's surface and create vibrations that produce non-stop seismic tones, so the shelf is always singing. And while the sounds aren't audible to human ears, scientists have used seismic sensors to listen to the tunes. They describe them as extremely sad and melancholic for some reason, which makes it so terrifying. The The song was discovered by accident when the researchers used seismic sensors to look into other behaviors of the ice slab, but since then they have found that as the environment changes, the song changes too. So now they use the song to monitor the ice shelf's stability and vulnerability while tracking any collapse when the music turns into a hum. This has left them thinking whether one day glaciers might also start singing songs that can be heard by human ears. Number 12. Ice holes. In 2017, the world witnessed a hole the size of Ireland opening up in Antarctica. Known as the Polinia, the hole spans 78,000 kilometers and is the largest hole to have opened up in the region since the 1970s. The hole was formed because of the warm, salty water in deeper parts of the sea. These holes are scientifically known as cryoconite holes, which means they are made up of ice and dust. These holes consist of rock particles and even tiny microbes. They tend to absorb heat from the sunlight, which causes the ice beneath them to melt, which results in the formation of holes that make it look like the land is collapsing onto itself. According to scientists, these ice holes formed might be a combination of the unusual ocean conditions and the weather in Antarctica, combined with intense storms that usually occur in the region with hurricane-like winds. The hole then forms as the wind pushes all the ice to the side with an intense force. The truth is that these polinias are actually more severe than they look. They contain extreme amounts of water vapor, a potent greenhouse gas that warms up the sea and intensifies the cyclones that are to follow. And with predictions of these offshore holes becoming more and more common with climate change, the thought of what kind of disasters it might bring is genuinely terrible. Scientists are still determining what else these holes do, but we know they get filled with water that can support life for cold-adapted microorganisms in the summer. Number 11. Mount Erebus. Most people find it hard to believe that Antarctica is home to tons of volcanoes. After all, a region entirely covered by ice can't possibly be the region where molten lava erupts. Wrong. Just by itself, Ross Island is home to 4 different volcanoes. While 3 are inactive, the 4th one is called Mount Erebus. It has increased in volcanic activity in the last 30 years, causing scientists to believe that the return might also be capable of further volcanic activity. As far as Mount Erebus is concerned, the volcano is filled with liquid magma and ancient lava lakes that have been boiling for around 1.3 million years. Mount Erebus is one of the world's most mysterious wonders. It's also one of the most active volcanoes scientists have ever discovered in the Antarctic region, towering up to 3,800 meters high. However, that is all we know about the nature of this volcano because of the fact that it's located in a highly remote and dangerous region where weather conditions are unpredictable. Even then, a group of scientists climbed the peak in 2013 and found organisms living inside the volcano's heat. Not just that, but the scientists also discovered quite a lot of ice caves with microorganisms growing in the soil. These creatures are considered some of the most unique discoveries ever made in the Antarctic region. Number 10. World's oldest pyramid. It's hard to imagine pyramids being discovered anywhere except in Egypt's warm region where the pharaohs lived and ruled. But what if we told you that Antarctica was also once home to a civilization that built and lived in pyramids to survive the region's environment? Mainstream geologists have never really understood how life could thrive in the extremes of Antarctica, but this discovery might be the answer to it all. In 2016, scientists captured satellite images of the region that showed a strange formation peering out from the ice. And while the region was extremely remote and dangerous to reach, scientists believe this was a sign of man-made pyramids in Antarctica. The structures look almost like the ones in Egypt, but the truth is the Antarctic Pyramid is much larger than the Great Pyramid of Egypt. The only reason they are not talked about as much is that scientists have never been able to reach them. This opens up the possibility of ancient human ancestors living and growing in the Antarctic continent at some point. Some researchers also believe that the entire civilization lived in Antarctica once. Still, all of their signs of existence are now buried under the snow. And let's face it, it's pretty easy to believe that with all the evidence. However, some geologists believe that because this pyramid-like structure is located on the Ellsworth mountain range, it is the range's peak. What story do you believe? We'll leave that up to you. Number 9. Ancient meteorites. Humans weren't the only civilization thriving in Antarctica back in the day. Scientists have actually found overwhelming evidence of alien life existing in the region. How can we say this? Because of the insane amounts of meteorite showers this place has received, it seems like intergalactic beings love this side of the world. Why? Well, while you can find meteorites falling all over the Earth, the number is insane in Antarctica. The first meteorite in Antarctica was discovered all the way back in 1912. Since then, scientists have found several meteorite-rich regions all over Antarctica. It could be because the region's cold, dry conditions preserve the rocky fragments better. Still, the meteorites are also easier to spot on miles and miles of ice. The East Antarctic in particular is known for having the entire top layers of its land covered with vast concentrations of meteorites that have been part of the land for billions of years. More than 20,000 samples have been collected, and the number is only increasing. The largest meteorite ever discovered has also been found in Antarctica, weighing 18 kilograms. Not just that, but researchers have also found a piece of Mars in the region, showing that it's definitely a magnet for intergalactic activities. There's really no other explanation. Number 8. Antarctic fungi. Tons of microorganisms have been discovered in Antarctica, including an endemic species of fungi that usually flourish in warm climates, but somehow they've also managed to thrive in the cold winter of Antarctica. These fungi feed on wood and are all over the wooden huts where the first explorers once lived. These fungi are a highly evolved species that have adapted to the harsh environment of the region, which might be why they are some of the most unique creatures on the planet. Moreover, another type of fungi has also been growing in the region. It feeds on petroleum containers abandoned by the explorers. Once again, this is an evolutionary trait found in fungi that only exists in the Antarctic area and nowhere else. Today, scientists are trying to figure out if these petroleum-eating fungi can help us clean large oil spills worldwide. Imagine how fascinating that would be. Number 7. The forbidden sector. Not most people know this, but Antarctica has a forbidden sector where no one is allowed to step in except for authorized individuals. Please think of this as Area 51 of the region, and no one knows what's happening here, leading us to believe that scientists are hiding some secrets. Even if you try to take a peek and see what lies beyond the border, you are immediately seized by the guards and taken inside, and no one has ever been able to find out what happens after that. The officials say the region is protected because it's the only site where emperor penguins are found. No humans are allowed inside to ensure no harm to their colonies, but who's to say that's the only thing going on in this protected region? Number 6. Third man factor. The third man factor isn't restricted to Antarctica. It's a phenomenon you can experience anywhere, but explorers have reported extremely strong experiences of the third man factor in Antarctic regions. The third man factor means that you feel the overwhelming presence of someone in times of distress, with the figure often guiding you when you are lost and making you feel safe. Because of Antarctica's harsh conditions and unusual hours of sunlight and darkness, tons of people experience hallucinations here, which might be what causes the third man factor. Explorers have reported instances where they can see shadows cast by nothing across the region's infinite plains. Ernest Shackleton was an explorer whose entire group experienced this phenomenon in the area during their travels, but that was just the beginning. Shackleton's tale goes a little like this. He and his companions were trying to travel to South Georgia Island by boat. After a tiring journey, they attempted to trek across to a whaling station in search of some food and shelter. But while they were trekking, the entire group, which consisted of 3 people, believed that another mysterious presence was walking alongside them. The group walked for 36 hours over mountains and glaciers, and all of them believed that they were 4, not just 3. Since then, tons of people who have been stranded or struggling to find their destination in Antarctica have reported feeling this presence guiding them along the right path. It could be something about the desperation of the situation. Still, it could have something to do with the Antarctic region. Number 5. Dead bodies. This one might be the worst discovery ever made in Antarctica. It's no surprise that the weather conditions in the region are incredibly harsh, making it impossible for humans to live there. But of course, many people have tried to settle down in Antarctica despite the extreme cold, and while it has definitely worked out for some, it has yet to be quite a good idea for many others. Researchers and explorers discovered tons of dead bodies of the first explorers who came to the region in the 19th and 20th centuries, when modern technology did not exist to make living in the cold easier. A skull and femur have been found lying across the coast of the Antarctic Peninsula for over 175 years, leading researchers to believe that plenty of other human remains are yet to be discovered here. An analysis of these bones suggests they date back to the 1800s. Since there was no way that people from other parts of the world could travel to the continent back then, it's assumed that the bones might also belong to civilizations native to the land that are now gone. Because of the extreme cold, many of these first explorers passed away. Their dead bodies were left in the icy land of Antarctica since their family members and friends did not know what to do with them. And since the cold can essentially preserve dead bodies, it's no surprise that corpses are still being discovered frozen and buried in the ice. Another theory also said that many murderers tend to dispose of the victims' bodies in the region, but that is a contested theory since there are no permanent residents here. However, the most shocking discovery was that of a Russian scientist who murdered a colleague with an axe after losing a chess match to him. The victim's body was found abandoned in the Antarctic ice. Number 4. Broken compasses. For some strange reason, compasses never seem to work at the North Pole. The scientific explanation is that the North Pole is highly magnetic and messes with the compass's magnetic field. But why does this happen? This is primarily because the Earth's magnetic fields curve around the planet's spherical shape, which means that compasses will never be reliable here. And while scientists know this today and take preventative measures to avoid getting lost or confused while traveling in the region, the first explorers had no idea this was a thing. So the many dead bodies found in the area can also include people who lost their way and never found their way back. At the same time, some conspiracy theorists believe that the compass story is just a plot to get people to stay away from some areas of the continent where unspeakable mysteries are being hidden. And not just compasses, but modern technology such as GPS systems also fail to function properly at the Earth's North Pole since they too are impacted by the planet's magnetic field. The reason why this happens is that, essentially, a GPS also needs a compass to function, and when that compass stops working, so does the GPS. Can there be some truth to all these conspiracies? What do you think? Number 3. Blood falls. On the list of the creepiest things discovered in Antarctica, this one is definitely in the top 3. Imagine finding a river of blood in the middle of pure white snow. That's a sight that can freak anyone out, right? Located in the McMurdo Drive Valley, you have a deep red waterfall that looks like it's pouring blood. The waterfall is 5 stories high and it seems like a gush of blood is coming out of Taylor Glacier in Lake Bonny. And for a while, scientists didn't know what this strange blood-like liquid was. But today they know that this water looks so deadly because Blood Falls was once a very salty lake that is now cut off from the atmosphere because of ice formations. As a result, the water has become saltier over time, and because of the salt content, it just can't freeze. And the water is also extremely rich in iron. It gets no oxygen or sunlight, which is why it has turned into a dark red color that can only be seen by a helicopter or cruise ships that visit the Ross Sea. Number 2. UFO sightings. As we discussed, the region of Antarctica is rich in alien activity. In addition to the meteor showers, scientists have discovered numerous spacecraft that don't look like anything produced on Earth. Of course, these regions are once again remote and hard to reach, so through satellite imagery, researchers have found formations and markings that are proof of extraterrestrial activity in the region. There are no concrete explanations for these signs of crashed aircraft and dozens of yearly UFO sightings people experience in the region. UFO hunters worldwide believe that Antarctica is the perfect location for aliens to form their home base on Earth because of its inaccessibility to human beings, and well, there's plenty of evidence to prove their claims. Number 1. A world underwater. Atlantis is a mystery humans have been trying to uncover for a long time. It looks like our answers might lie in the icy cold depths of Antarctica. Atlantis is a city that is said to have fallen underwater, never to be seen ever again. But some people believe we have never found evidence of Atlantis because the city is buried and frozen under the Antarctic ice. Not just that, but there is also evidence of Hitler using the Antarctic waters to form an underground base for himself and the Nazis because no one could possibly reach them here. We say this because in the late 1930s, the Nazis showed interest in visiting Antarctica. They were sent out on an expedition to search the area and claim a part for Germany. And while the claim never happened, That hasn't stopped people from thinking that the Nazis might have utilized the land differently. What do you think of these terrifying discoveries being discovered in Antarctica? Which one scared you the most? Tell us in the comments section below.